people are shopping different. And I don't think that we can depend on these big, what I call shop-a-days or shopping holidays to drive massive growth. And instead, we need to really look at, as brands and e-commerce leaders, that the traffic and the shopping trend and the revenue trends are going to flatten out.
Welcome to Behind the Numbers Brand Anatomy, an all-new eMarketer podcast that looks under the hood of your favorite brands, made possible by Basis Technologies. It's December 15th, and I'm your host, eMarketer Briefing Director, Jeremy Goldman. And this is the show that gets inside brands and dives deep into one of their recent campaigns or discusses the ROI behind a new technology they've adopted. Today, we're talking with Abby Whitmer, VP of e-commerce at BeautyBio. Welcome, Abby.
Hi, Jeremy. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm really excited to be talking to you in just a second. And here's what we have on deck for you today. First, a speed intro where we get to know our guest in 100 seconds or less. Then, Tell Me Something I Don't Know, where yours truly and this week's guest will bring a number, stat, or study that we find particularly fascinating and or relevant. And then we jump into this week's case study, how BeautyBio is poising itself for growth amidst a changing digital marketing landscape. All right, Abby, time for your speed intro, where we get to know you and see how you think on your feet. 100 seconds on the clock. Our producer, Marcus, will be timing you. Your time starts now. First off, where are you from?
Chicago. What
is your primary goal at BeautyBio?
To invite more people into this amazing brand.
Favorite streaming entertainment of the last year?
The show You on Netflix.
Oh, okay. I thought it was me for a second. Yes. Okay. I like Penn Badgley as well. What's one thing about how you were in high school that your BeautyBio team would never guess is true?
That I was a huge karate nerd.
Wow. Favorite city to travel to?
Hong Kong.
Favorite social media platform?
TikTok, surprisingly.
Fair. You can have coffee with any two living business leaders. Who do you pick?
I would pick Mackenzie Scott, Jeff Bezos' ex-wife, and Melinda Gates.
And how many years have you known me?
11 years, but you told me that, so that was a little bit of a cheat.
That's true. She did not know that. Shame on her. But you did quite well. Now it's time for Tell Me Something I Don't Know. This is the segment where we each bring an interesting number, stat, study, or finding that most folks wouldn't know about, but will be highly relevant to brand marketers. And we explain why we think it matters. Here's what I'm bringing, Abby. I thought it was really interesting to take a look at this BlueCore study that said that health and beauty and specialty gifting have the greatest increases in third and fourth time buyers over the Cyber Monday, Black Friday period, which could indicate that they have strong post-purchase nurture streams or strong replenishment programs, within health and beauty specifically. And I'm wondering, do you think that's true, given the fact that you have been in the beauty space for a long period of time?
Yeah, I think that, and this is my 6th beauty brand that I've worked on, and I think that it's one reason I love the space is because beauty industry does have a really high replenishment percentage based on other industries. It's a consumable good. It's also tends to be a luxury good sometimes, not all the time, but from an e-commerce perspective, really strong luxury e-commerce and beauty. And I think it makes a lot of sense that there's a high percentage of retention across that industry for sure.
I also think it's interesting, and I think we have to keep in mind, and I know the BlueCore study actually looked at this, there was a 23% decrease in first-time buyers for health and beauty in 2021. And maybe that could be actually attributed to the fact that 2020 was such a year of discovery, people just sitting at home, watching TikTok, just like you were, and, discovering a lot of new brands. And maybe that was the year of discovery, and 2021 is the year of, kind of building a new habit.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that percentage. 2020 was such an anomaly year. And a lot of times the beauty industry is a little bit slower to move towards an online innovation space when you compare it to something like a fashion, which I think is a really close adjacent industry. But I think that 2020 was just such an anomaly. Everyone was trying new at-home treatments for beauty. Everyone was hyper tuned in to health right? So I think that the decrease for 2021 is almost just like a reset. And when we go into 2022, we're going to have that baseline that's a little bit more stable and comparable versus the 2020 number. So that stat doesn't surprise me. I just think 2020 was such a weird year. When you try to comp it, it's really tough to do. And I think a lot of brands probably made that mistake, trying to comp 2020 and their forecasts and thinking that there was a new skyrocketing trend when it was just really an anomaly year.
It is interesting because I think even in a lot of my writing, it's doing comparisons to last year because you kind of have to, but I'm also doing comparisons to 2019 because in a lot of ways, that was a little bit more analogous to where we are, even though, of course, we're still living in a totally different time.
100%. I think, the term LLY, I'd never heard before this year, but it's now so common. And that's instead of comparing to last year, you're comparing to LLY or 2019 because 2020 just was so different. And that's become a standard practice, at least in the retail world, where you have brick and mortar stores and the omni-channel is so important. A lot of retail partners are comparing to LLY.
I'm really excited to see what data you've brought to the table. So take it away.
All right. Well, I don't think that this is something people don't know. There's been a lot of data around Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year. But I do think that it's interesting that while the increase in brick and mortar store traffic was 61% versus 2020 levels, it's still 27% below pre-pandemic rates. And that doesn't surprise anyone, but that is still a pretty significant decrease, even with lockdowns in the US in particular being less restrictive. So I think that that was an interesting stat. I also think it's an interesting stat that Black Friday was not as strong as 2020. That may be expected, but because everyone moved to online, a lot of people moved to online shopping. I did think it would be a little bit stronger with a slight growth, maybe a 1% growth, something like that. But instead, it was a slight decline versus 2020. And what I think is interesting there is just people are shopping different. And I don't think that we can depend on these big, what I call shop-a-days or shopping holidays to drive massive growth. And instead, we need to really look at as brands and e-commerce leaders that the traffic and the shopping trend and the revenue trends are going to flatten out. And I think that's what we've seen this year is that while people may have spent just as much in November and December or more, it's not all happening on that Black Friday, Cyber Monday anymore. Sales are earlier, people are shopping earlier, and we're probably going to talk about supply chain at some point, but that was a big deal too, that FedEx, USPS, and UPS have all kind of said, we're not really guaranteeing ship dates anymore. So that caused people, the minute they get that sale that they're waiting for, it could be November 1st, they're buying. So I thought that that was just an interesting shift in trend that I don't think it's going to go away.
I think that one of the things that's really interesting to me is next year, let's say, are people going to be buying around October 10th for the holidays? Is that going to be something that just becomes a new normal because of supply chain, or does that ease up? And I think that, the shop-a-days point, I would almost in a weird way, like push back on, because I'm thinking if you throw an interesting sale on October 25th each year, where a bunch of things are 10% off and a bunch of things are 25% off, and you train your customers, won't they buy then? Maybe people are just trying to get smarter about figuring out when to buy, when it's going to suit them, and try to, shop on their own terms.
Yeah, I think they are. And I do think there's not so much you can do any earlier. There is this consumer mental switch after Halloween that happens. And I don't know that we could push it to like early October. You can have a sale people might buy, but I think for gifting in particular and stocking up for yourself, especially when it comes to beauty, I don't know that people are ready to do that until after Halloween. Just a thought.
That's a fair point. I think the last thing I'd probably ask you about this is, I wonder if experiences, that's something that we're covering a little bit more of, is that experiences from a gifting standpoint have been on the rise versus physical goods. And maybe, you look at those Adobe numbers that said that Black Friday dropped below 2020 levels. That was the first time Black Friday online shopping has ever dropped. It was only, it wasn't that much, but it was still a drop. And maybe does experiences, does that wind up being something that causes causes a significant drop or a noticeable drop in physical goods. And maybe can beauty benefit because spa experiences, that's one thing that is one of the most giftable things around, according to data.
I think that experiences and eventing have undergone a shift, especially in this blended hybrid, online, offline world that's now merging. So I think you're probably right. Maybe that's a great strategy to try out, is focus on experiences early on when people aren't ready to buy tons and tons of physical goods, but experience sales, that's something that's really interesting. I like that.
Well, good. You can take my idea and run with it. But
I will.
All right, we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, Basis Technologies, and then we'll be right back.
Today's podcast is made possible by Basis Technologies. Basis Technologies has created a digital advertising platform that connects people, automates processes, and unifies channels, bringing together programmatic, site direct, search, social, and CTV in one single interface. And through the power of automation, Basis enables brands, agencies, and publishers to build and operate a healthy, secure, efficient, and profitable advertising organization. Ready to take control of your advertising? Just go to basis.net today. That's www.basis.net. Basis Technologies, the future of advertising has arrived.
All right, now it's time for our Briefcase Study, where we look at a recent brand campaign or deployment and discuss what went right and some learnings for next time. So first off, I want to just kind of tell people a little bit more about BeautyBio. It's been around for a decade, but it's become a little closer to a household name, especially in beauty circles lately. Can you give our listeners a high-level overview of the brand?
Yeah, so BeautyBio is a clinical, science-based, clean skincare and at-home tools brand. That is a mouthful. But what's really cool about it, it's been around for like 10, 15 years. It was started by a doctor and his daughter, really to bring active ingredients into skincare products. That was the original intent, at levels that would make a real difference in your skin, that you could see the results. Because what happened was they were selling these active ingredients to larger beauty brands, and the larger beauty brands weren't putting the dose that they'd recommended to see real results because of a cost savings. So that's kind of the impetus of it. And they started with their retinol product called R45, which still to this day is one of the top sellers. It is a 45-day treatment that you do twice a year. But what BeautyBio has really become known for is this at-home microneedling. So it's hundreds of surgical grade needles, which sounds super scary. And if we were on video, I could show it to you that it's not scary. That creates these channels in your skin to allow for product to be absorbed better, faster, and give you more results. So it's really just taken off. I'm so glad to be part of this amazing brand.
And I think one of the reasons why obviously a brand, brings somebody on like yourself, kind of a beauty lifer who has, quite a bit of e-commerce experience, is to help take that beauty brand to the next level. So what in your mind does it take to bring, a brand like BeautyBio to the next level and to just really level up into the mainstream?
The first step is an awareness on the importance of digital to your bottom line and your top line growth, honestly. Because if you look at brands that really have taken off, a lot of them are digital native. They started online, they understand the space, they get their awareness, and they just have really good mechanisms in place for automation, talking to the consumer, doing personalization. So for me, it starts kind of at the top in realizing that, hey, we need to put a focus on this digital landscape, even if we were a traditional brand and we were sold in department stores, for example. But then realizing that you need to attract a newer customer and be ready to take those steps and organize your organization, your brand around that. And so that's really probably not the answer you were thinking I was going to say, but that really is, it's that awareness level from the very top to be able to invest and organize around a digital mindset.
So what are some of the steps from a digital marketing and a customer experience standpoint, is your team taking to keep the brand's awareness ascendant?
I think a brand like ours, originally, we would think, okay, social media is it, right? Paid social is where we need to be. Obviously, this last year or so has been extremely, I think, challenging for people on social. For us, it still brings in that awareness level, but being able to say it's okay to not get that last click sale or not know if you're getting it is where we've all kind of had to hold hands and look at, a holistic ROAS, a blended return on investment, that type of a thing. And then I think one thing that's so cool about BeautyBio is that we're willing to take risks and try things. And that's from the top. It's like, if we want to try an out of home campaign, which I used to work at Clear Channel, which, has billboards and stuff. So I am a believer in out of home from an awareness perspective, but not a lot of brands are. And we just did a total New York City takeover and it performed. I mean, that market outshined every other market for the brand since we launched that campaign. And so doing things like that and being able to take risks, I think is paying off little bit by little bit. And so it's really exciting to know that in 2022, this brand is poised for growth. I'm pumped.
It is funny. I was going to say that things have gone so full circle that like the risky, unexpected thing is like print,
Right.
because, but you're right, because it is one of those things that a lot of brands have kind of started to overlook and yet, when you do something like this, where you can essentially have a controlled experiment, you've been able to see, I'm imagining, I don't know if you have like a percentage of, ROAS for that, but, it's clearly something that's paying off if you're reinvesting in it.
Yeah, that. And also another surprising one was radio ads. So I wanted to do these two separate tiny tests and did radio ads just in one small market and got a good deal on it. I'm like, oh, great, let's try it. And it performed too. And eventing also performs. So I'm kind of this digital marketer who is going back to the traditional marketer inside, where I just think it's time to kind of go full circle, like you said, and look at all of the space in someone's world, everything they're experiencing offline and on, and then just being able to track to your goals as much as you can and being okay if those goals aren't sales, right? It doesn't have to be sales right away, but maybe it's traffic. And then I get them in my lead gen operations. If you build those retention funnels to make them really, really strong, then all of that awareness work that you're doing doesn't go to waste, whether or not they buy now or they buy in 30 days. They're going to buy because I'm going to make them. Just kidding. Don't put that.
No, but makes perfect sense. We got to keep that in. No, I think but seriously, I think though you're making a really interesting point, which is that traditional marketing is making a comeback. And I think it's, in my mind, in part, it might be because of the recent iOS changes that have impacted Facebook ads, because, those ads were really important to a lot of brands. So maybe they're focusing more on brand awareness and top of the funnel now. I mean, have the iOS changes, have those been, impactful to you? Like very much so, a little bit? How would you say?
I got to BeautyBio in September of this year. And at that point, the impact was already kind of seen and recognized. Since then, we've made really, really great improvements. So I'm not abandoning social ads at any point, but what I am doing is being agile. So if something hits on social, I'm not waiting to say, oh, let's just see how it does for the next week. No, I'm saying scale it now, scale it fast, put all our budget on it, and then making a really agile decisions. I think that's been able to be helpful. And on the flip side, if something's not working and we don't know why right away and we can't fix it right away, I'll pull back on that and do the legwork to figure it out, fix it, and then come back and try again. So I think the agility, whereas before you could really just kind of shove money in that funnel and see it returned to you, especially for a brand as visual as BeautyBio and, a lot of beauty brands. Now, I think you're having to really watch it and pull back and not overspend when something's not working, right? And even when something is working. So for example, we had a dry shampoo launch, took off. I mean, just took way off on social, which was great, but it's a $39 product. And our other products are, higher priced. So all of our spend, Facebook was like, oh, we like this ad. It's getting conversions. We're going to give all the money to it. But at some point I was like, we're not going to get that return. We need to actually work on turning those people into other buyers of our categories, like cross-category selling. So I kind of pulled back a little bit on that to give a chance to some of our higher priced items and our holiday sets. So I think making smart decisions and doing it on a daily basis and having a really good agency partner or internal resource is paramount for working with Facebook now.
The interesting thing is also is, we're talking a lot about brand awareness and top of funnel versus bottom of the funnel at a time where, like we're speaking in the thick of the holiday season right now. And you're obviously most brands, I don't know if you're all that different, this is particularly important to your bottom line. I mean, what are some learnings you've had from the holiday season so far?
So we went out early, like a lot of people, for Black Friday, Cyber Monday in particular, but we didn't go out as early as competitors. And I do think that we have to pull those sales up. Like I was talking about earlier with the flattening of sales, you can't rely on having $1 billion day on Black Friday anymore. You really kind of need to elongate your sale timeframe and then inject newness throughout it. So that's something that I learned this year is that, there's only so much X% off and get this gift with purchase that people can stand when I'm, a lot of people hammer people over the head with their offer, twice a day, 3 times a day. So for us, I think just injecting newness into the Black Friday, Cyber Monday timeframe will really, really help with getting people to buy more often, and just, rise the tides for all of Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And that's really the biggest important season for us. We also have something called Blushmas, which is a really cute name for 12 days, 12 deals, 24 hours only. And we're trying some different strategies with that. I think using dynamic content, permeating, the website with the sale instead of driving to specific landing pages that are only live for a short amount of time. I think that has helped a lot too. So just little levers like that and trying new things has helped a lot for us.
I'm just really curious, the supply chain, the thing that everybody likes to talk about now, has that affected you at all this holiday season? Like, have you had to change any promotions or mix anything up because of it?
Yeah. I mean, we're a medium-sized company, so we don't have our own vertical supply chain. We don't have our own warehouses. So it has affected us in terms of not being able to say things like, get this in time for Christmas. Like that's just, or get this in time for Hanukkah. Like we can't say any of those guarantees because FedEx literally won't. And our warehouse partner obviously won't. So, which is responsible. So inputting like gentle messaging on a regular basis in cart and in our emails, just saying, demand is high. Things may take a little longer to get to you. We've had to do that because I don't want consumer expectation to be, I'm going to get this on the 24th. And we have no idea and no guarantee that that will happen. We're not in a position to make that. So I do think that not having that sense of urgency is affecting us a little bit in December. But most of the season for us is done Black Friday, Cyber Monday. So that's November and we don't have a problem there. So it's affected us a little bit, but not as drastically as I would have thought, honestly.
So survivable. That's good. And honestly, folks, would you rather get the right thing 3 days after Christmas or the wrong thing 2 days before? I mean, that's just my opinion. But
we should take a poll on that because some people might want the wrong thing 2 days before.
Send us comments to the podcast email address. Abby, I wanted to ask you just before I let you go, last question we always ask everybody. What are 2 brands you particularly admire that you draw inspiration from?
All right. So in the beauty space, I actually, and they're somewhat competitive, but I don't care. We're all one big happy beauty family, is Tula. So I just think that they are very smart when it comes to e-commerce in general. They make big, bold moves with their site to make it faster, leaner, and meaner. They're just very digital focused. They're very customer centric. They listen to their customers. So I actually really love to watch that brand and get inspired from them. The other brand, Lululemon. I mean, that's it's a very probably random brand, but the fact that they will, I hope they don't kill me for this, but the fact that if your leggings start pilling or go see-through, I mean, that was a PR nightmare. But if anything happens, you can go in and they'll give you new ones, or they'll fix it forever. You don't need a receipt. It's pretty amazing. Their customer service is top notch.
That is pretty amazing. Abby, this was fantastic. You were great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. This was so fun. I can't wait to listen to us talk.
Al, that's all the time we have for today's episode, but let us know what you think. We'd love to hear from you at podcast@eMarketer.com. I'll be back in a few weeks for another episode of the Behind the Numbers Brand Anatomy. Make sure to tune in tomorrow for the Behind the Numbers Daily, an eMarketer podcast made possible by Basis Technologies.